Muchas veces las apariencias engañan. Estoy aquí con el famoso no famoso, el cual no vas a encontrar en internet. A billionaire. I'm sitting right now with a billionaire in Las Vegas having a nice cup of coffee. Last night I met him. This gentleman, see, some people are about money. Others, they're about entertainment. And other people, like the gentleman here, they're about humanity. Now, there was something that he said last night that stood out to me. Now, a lot of people know me on the internet, PRBE Capital. Oh, Baruch can connect you to Capital this. But there are some things that I myself don't know sometimes. So I'm going to ask this gentleman a question that stood out to me. And I want you, the viewer from all over the world that you're tuning in, to listen to the detail of a brilliant mind, the thoughts behind him. So let me ask you something.
You're too kind, man.
We talked yesterday about private placement memorandums. We talked about business acquisitions, buying businesses. Right now, you're worth $3 billion, and you've done amazing things in Haiti, right? You're a descendant from are your parents descendant from Haiti?
My parents were born in Haiti. I was born here.
You've done great and wonderful things for the humanity. You've done stuff from houses. You will do more stuff from sewer stuff to help the water, to help people, to help the community. I also heard a little bit that you're doing stuff with movies, with films, to impact people's life because you partner up with another person that's also doing that. So my question to you is, behind the brilliant mindset that you've got, there is a systematic approach. There is a procedure to understanding how to take your company public. Can you give a little insight on perhaps the 3 steps on how you took your company public?
Man, well, first of all, I appreciate the introduction, man. To answer your question, there are 3, I guess, major steps to doing so that anybody can do, and if done, can put you in a position where you can borrow against your shares in that business and leverage that collateral to then purchase, whatever, acquire businesses, build, improve conditions for your country or whatever your purpose is on this planet. So I would say, first and foremost, acquiring what they call a blank check corporation is it's the most important thing you can do.
Now, stop it there. He said a blank check corporation. For those of you that are interested in private equity, hey, this is something. Now, what do you mean by blank check corporations?
So a blank check corporation is a corporation similar to like a aged LLC or shelf LLC, where people fill out all the paperwork. They get a company listed on the exchanges, but the company itself doesn't have any revenue, any financials, any board of directors, any assets, nothing. It's just a business on paper. And essentially, they do all this, and then they sell those companies to entrepreneurs who then take those companies and merge them with their existing LLC or their existing corporation. That process is called a reverse merger. And so by the combination or the combining of those 2 entities, now your LLC, your state-based LLC, becomes a publicly listed company with its own ticker symbol, which you can always modify. It's just paperwork. And essentially, that's a way to go public in a quick, efficient way. Without having to go through all the loopholes and hoops and run around and do too many things.
Now, that's an amazing insight, but how about we get more deep? Because if we understand detail, you can execute. This is not about charging you. This is about giving you the info and you can execute. Now, check this one out. What are some prices? Because unfortunately, you got to be sold and not told. In America, you got to pay for everything. So what are some prices that, from your experience, you would assume that would cost a person, from blank check corporations to getting SEC approvals?
Man,
I mean,
you're really putting me on the spot, man. But what we can do in a future video, I can give you the exact cost of everything. But a blank check, a blank check corporation, at minimum could be anywhere between 150 and 200,000, right? But those tend to be corporations that have folded, maybe have gone bankrupt, and have a history of liabilities that you want to make sure you disclaim or you limit those liabilities. So they tend to be companies that aren't worth anything. The company is giving up and they're folding, but they don't want to lose their status. They're trying to liquidate and get some money for something that they have, which is this publicly listed corporation. But a true blank check corporation that's like, perfect bells and whistles and everything could be anywhere from 700,000 and up. So basically, that somewhere in that range is going to get you a strong corporation that you can then combine with your LLC and go from there. Now, in terms of SEC filings, market makers, and there's a lot of other steps involved in the process. I think the most expensive one is going to be whatever legal fees you have and third-party audit fees. So every corporation is required to be audited, have audited financials as part of its package to submit to the SEC. And having that done, especially, I'm an attorney, so I can do a lot of these things for myself. But for those of you who are not attorneys, which probably most of you, you're going to spend anywhere from 25 to 50K on those two professional services alone, in addition to the actual blank check corporation.
What an amazing insight. So I came here to Vegas to meet a private accredited investor, and I also met another gentleman that is going to take his company public. Now, why is the Latino community not understanding how to take their company public? The highest level of corporate finance in high finance in the United States of America is to take your company public, where you tell the people all over the world, give me some money, give me some money. Now, we're sitting here right now with the famous, infamous Antoine, and we're just having some coffee, but there is something in the SEC website, right? Something that's called the Edgar system. Now, I am a very ignorant man when it comes to securities and exchange commissions and all these laws and bylaws. I'm sitting here with an attorney. What is from your brilliant mindset, from your perspective, your opinion, not as legal advice, of course, what is the Edgar system when it comes to SEC? How can a person capitalize, take their company public, but they need to understand the Edgar system?
So the Edgar Archives is essentially a database that has all the filings of every corporation that's ever been public in the history of the United States. So all that information, all their quarterly reports, their initial disclosures, their private placement memorandums, everything that would be required for the process of going public is all archived within this database and can be searched. And then when you find those documents, you can then use those documents to kind of guide you and give you the steps on how to go through this process yourself, as well as the type of substance of paperwork that needs to be, in those forms as well. So when you see how other people were able to achieve and get approved, you can then look at, see what they said, how they said it, and then use that for yourself. And now in the age of AI, you can just probably upload that thing and, ask it to replace names and everything and, do things for yourself. So very, very effective way of learning the process and learning what the SEC is looking for in the process of becoming public.
Would it be as easy? I wouldn't say the word easy because everything takes time. But if the viewer invests hours in the SEC website, would it be as easy as going to the public information, downloading or copying it, putting it on AI, and then customizing it to his or her advantage? Would that be the rule?
There's no substitute for legal advice. I'll say that. But remember, the SEC is not looking to get you in trouble. The only thing is, before you ever market a security to anybody, you want to get their approval to do so first. And if there are problems with your applications, they will write you back and tell you what those problems are, and then you can fix them. But for the most part, they take a long time to get back to you and tell you what to fix or, what needs to be fixed. They won't tell you how to fix them. They'll just tell you certain things need to be fixed. And because of that, a process that maybe is 11 months on the just straight up applying process could take you 11 to 15 months, can end up taking you years because you're not filling it out correctly. So you definitely want to use all the tools available to you. AI is definitely one of those tools, but when you don't know what you don't know, it's hard to know whether AI has given you what you've actually prompted to give you. Sometimes you may prompt AI, but AI doesn't give you a whole 80-page document. They try to shorten it and you have to ask it to expand upon certain sections, and you have to know what you're looking for. And so studying those records is helpful. But I will say this, depending on your industry, you can search by the NAICS code, the NAICS code,
Yes, coach.
and you can find other companies within your industry that have gone public, how they structure their companies. Everything about them is going to be on there, and then that's a cheat sheet for how to improve your company as well.
100%. 100%. Could you tell us who is? That was a lot of knowledge right there. My brain just fogged right there. But could you tell us a little bit about the infamous Peter Thiel? What do you know about Mr. Peter Thiel?
Man, I really wish I wasn't on the spot, but Peter Thiel is an American businessman. He's a world famous investor, one of the richest men on the planet, who was an early stage investor in Facebook, Google, all the top Silicon Valley companies. Very influential in politics and lobbying. As a matter of fact, the Vice President J.D. Vance was a mentee of his, right? So, his appointment to vice president was seen by many as a combination of Silicon Valley and the Trump presidency, which obviously Elon Musk was a part of at that time. And, the two industries coming together and trying to make something happen for themselves. But Peter Thiel wrote a book called 0 to 1. It's an excellent book. It talks about putting yourself in a position where you can create a monopoly. Every industry can has sub industries and has levels within that industry. And basically you can, through the way you structure yourself and your value proposition and everything, place yourself where, even though you're in an industry where there's thousands and millions of competitors, you can basically make it so that you're essentially all by yourself and no one can compete with you. And that type of thinking is how he was able to transform so many businesses into the leaders within that particular industry, just making himself such a powerful leader and innovator and strategist in the process.
Folks, I'm sitting here with a brilliant mind. I'm sitting here with someone that has paid a price, sacrificed his time, and I acknowledged a bunch of information that takes hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn. I know that most of you would like to get on a consultation with him. You can definitely schedule a consultation with him. The link is in this description, and right now it's popping up in the page. This is the famous Mr. Antoine, and he soon he's gonna take his company public, and he will do great and amazing things. The Latino community. Have you ever heard of a Latino taking his company public? Let me tell you something. As far as the facts go, there are 6 Black American publicly traded company. Now that's facts. And there happens to be a 7th, and I do business with him.
Michael Jordan's brother is married to.
And I'm sitting here right now with Mr. Antoine, okay? And he is a man of understanding, has a brilliant mind. I would like to ask him a question that I don't, because I don't know I don't know the answers. I know most. I've been a jack of all trades, and that's better than a master of just one. And I'm sitting here with the Kingpin VIP, and my question to him is, as far as my knowledge and expertise, about $20,000 it takes to sit down and speak with an attorney from the SEC. Now that attorney is going to help you with your procedures in order for you to get approved and take your company public.
So most attorneys who help you take your company public are going to charge you a flat rate between $25,000 and $50,000. So it's not just for that phone call. But I want back up to something you just said before in the beginning of your question, Baruch. So basically, the way I got into this in the first place was because I was reading a magazine called the Forbes 400. Forbes comes out with this magazine issue once a year, and they list the 400 richest people in America, right? And they tell you who the person is, what industry and how they got there. They give you the whole story. And what I noticed, there was a section for the under 40 billionaires, the Mark Zuckerbergs and a few others. And they talked about how those people also became billionaires at such a young age. And what they all had in common is that they all got rich from an IPO and taking a company public.
Wow.
Every single one of them. That's the only way any of these people ever become rich.
Hear
You
that?
will not find many people on this planet who have $1 billion in cash sitting in the bank. Not even Elon Musk has that. What happens is they have shares of a company. Those shares of a company are worth a certain amount as determined by the market. And because of the value of the share and the number of shares they have, their net worth becomes 100 billion, 150 billion. And it can go down 50 billion, it could go up 50 billion in a day, but their bank accounts won't change. It's their worth on paper. And so using this process of taking a company public is very powerful because it takes you into a whole different stratosphere of business. Whereas most of us, we're used to providing a service or selling a product and getting paid for that. And you can do that all day long, but you will never make billions of dollars until you take a company public. So to spend 25 to 50,000 to take your company public might seem like a lot of money, but when you think about the value it creates in terms of putting you in a position where you can make billions, then it's definitely worth it in the long run.
I am shattered in my head for all this information, and absolutely true. I mean, the highest level of corporate finance and high finance is to take your company public. Leaders watering leaders. There is specific knowledge that you need to understand that I don't know it all and you don't know it all. When it comes to taking your company public, there is a specific strategy that a person can use in order to impact humanity, in order to do not just give me some money and I'll do it for myself and I'll take care of my family and I'm out. So the question to you today is, we talked briefly about taking your company public. What is a strategy that you can say, you know what, I'll take my company public, but I want to do stuff for humanity and I don't care what anyone else says?
I got you. So if social impact is your ultimate desire, right, beyond just making money, right? Someone says, he who forgets the ultimate is a slave to the immediate, right? So the immediate concern might be to make money, but if the ultimate desire is to make impact, then there's a specific type of entity you should be thinking about using, which is the public benefit corporation. So, for example, and I was going over the history with Baruch the other day, and I was explaining how in a traditional corporation, your duty as a board member is to make sure that you return a profit for your shareholders. The shareholders are the people who give you money and you run the corporation for them, and you have to make sure that you maximize profit at every turn. If you see a kid starving on the street and you give them corporate funds, your shareholders can sue you because you did not prioritize their profits over the help of those kids.
Okay, now hang on. I know he said a lot of detail, but I'm super new to this. I didn't understand nothing. Can you run it down again just a little bit slow for the viewer,
Okay.
for the slow people like me? Yeah.
No problem. So, in a traditional corporation,
Okay.
if you're running the corporation,
Right.
and people have donated their money to you, they've invested their money with you for you to then maximize and create a return on investment for them. Your primary responsibility, your fiduciary duty, is to make sure that you maximize their profit by any chance. So, for example, if you have the choice between laying off 1,000 employees who helped you build your company to where it is, blood, sweat, and tears, versus returning to them a 2 times higher dividend or distribution as their shareholders, by law, you have to return their shareholders the 2 times dividend or distribution. You cannot prioritize your employees over their profit.
Wow.
So that's why they say corporations have no heart, because it's all about money, right? And so the nonprofit was then created not too long afterwards, where things like churches and charitable organizations were able to organize themselves and receive donations from people. But as a trade-off, they're not allowed to seek profit for themselves, the owners, the founders, right? They're only allowed by law to give themselves a salary that's equivalent to the average of an individual in that industry, but no more, definitely, a lot less. So essentially, if you create a nonprofit, you cannot be about making money. It's all about the impact, not about the money, right? So you have one extreme where it's all about the money and no impact. In a nonprofit, it's all about the impact but no money. But if you're an entrepreneur, if you're like me, if
All
you're
right.
like Baruch,
All right, here we
and
go.
you want to make money, but you want to help your people as well, you create a public benefit corporation.
A public what?
A public benefit corporation.
Did you get that,
I
Jack?
think they got it. And so in a public benefit corporations, you have a stated purpose in your bylaws, the benefit that you're seeking to create on society. So say, for example, it's helping orphans in Haiti, like I want to do, right? If that is your stated benefit, then it doesn't matter what's going on, how much money you can return to investors. If you have extra money at the end of a quarter, at the end of a month, at the end of a week, you can invest that money towards their social purpose that you have, that public benefit that you have stated in your bylaws, helping orphans in Haiti, right? And so your shareholders can't be mad at you that you didn't give them a high dividend or a high distribution, because they ultimately are investing to support your mission and make a little bit money if they can. But the primary concern is the mission, the purpose, the public benefit. And so in a situation like this, yes, you can sell shares to shareholders. You can take a company public with a public benefit corporation. You can, trade on the stock exchange, and people can make millions in terms of selling and buying your shares. But at the end of the day, if you decide that you want to use your profits towards your public benefit, you are allowed to do so, and your shareholders don't have any liability towards your shareholders for not making them or their profits your primary concern.
Now, within my knowledge, right, that's very limited. I've heard it takes 8 or 11 months, sometimes even a year plus, to get approved by the SEC of FINRA. No. So
if you're starting from scratch and you're filling out these applications and you're trying to go through the process the traditional way, then yes, it could take 11 months or more. But if you buy a publicly traded company, a blank check corporation, and you merge that with your LLC, you can be done in about 30 to 45 days.
Blank check corporate, and I mean, he's given a lot of understanding. A lot of you guys are gonna execute, but a blank check corporate. Well, how do I purchase one? How does the viewer act? Because that viewer listening, he wants, or she, you want to impact humanity, and this is not about gimme, my name is Jimmy, but it's about impacting people. How can a person capitalize on a blank check corporation?
So the people who traditionally are aware of blank check corporations for sale or have blank check corporations that they're selling are law firms who kind of just create them and let them sit. CPAs who manage other people through the bankruptcy process and are helping them to sell or liquidate their assets. You might have websites or third-party sites that can arrange where there may be brokers who sell on behalf of others.
What's the cost?
So you're going to spend between 150 and 200,000 at minimum. But the thing is, when you buy these corporations, you still have to do your homework, because a lot of times, especially for the cheaper end of the range, you might find blank check corporations that are trying to pass on liabilities to the buyer that they don't want to be responsible for anymore.
There's a couple of loopholes
there's some loopholes
to beware.
Because when you buy a corporation, you buy their assets, which is the ticker symbol, but you also buy their liabilities, which could be all their debts and any judgments, any lawsuits that they have to pay. And so you have to make sure in the process of buying them that you do your due diligence, and you make sure that in your purchase agreement you limit as many liabilities as possible while making yourself as while taking as many of the assets as possible.
Well, and so folks, to finish up, it sounds like information is there, but there's definitely stuff to be aware, because we don't want to get into something. So in other words, perhaps it's wise to schedule a consultation, to reach out to folks like Mr. Antoine, to folks like myself, a business consultant from PRBE Capital, and perhaps we can connect you. Sometimes we don't need to be sold on something. Sometimes we need guidance. And if you need guidance and counseling within this process, perhaps it's best to reach out. Estamos juntos, galera. Todo bom.
Todo bom.